Welcome to our video interview series on advancing higher education in India, where we will be discussing the future of higher education and its evolving landscape. My name is Tarannum Manjul and welcome to VW Education. Today we have the privilege of speaking with our esteemed guest, Professor Manoj K Arora, the Vice Chancellor of SRM University AP, and Raghav Gupta, Managing Director, Coursera for Campus India and Asia Pacific. We would like to welcome both of you for this discussion.
Thank you.
Wonderful to be here with both of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So our guests will be actually talking about and providing invaluable insights on various aspects of education and its intersection with the industry needs. Now, starting off with Professor Manoj Arora. My first question focuses on the increasing demand for flexible, personalized, and industry-relevant learning experiences. How can the universities, according to you, best prepare to meet this demand?
I think ever since the National Education Policy in 2020, which has been rolled out, I think the complete focus has been shifted to holistic development of students. And when we look at that, I think if the students are allowed to do more activities rather than just sitting in the classrooms, wherein a teacher is speaking something and then they are getting whatever teacher knows. But if the environment could be a very, very learning environment, wherein all kinds of activities, whether it is skills of any kind, whether it is knowledge, of course, is there, whether it is co-curricular activities, anything, all these things, if these can be integrated properly into the curricula, right, then comes the flexibility. So once we will be able to integrate these in the curricula, students will have a lot of flexibility to do many things throughout the duration of their program on our campuses. Right. So if I look at our university itself, in fact, right now we are revamping the curricula. We are not saying revising the curricula. We are revamping the curricula, looking at the current generation aspirations. Right. This generation is altogether a different generation, and they are not coming to the institution just to sit in the classrooms. So what, in fact, we have done, in fact, on this coming Saturday, we are having an industry academia dialogue only on curricula, revamping of curricula. How can industry get involved on a continual basis when we are delivering the curricula in any program? So in fact, this is happening only recently. Saturday itself, we are, there are 40 industry people are coming from across all the disciplines. Since we are a multidisciplinary university, we have a School of Engineering and Sciences, we have a School of Business, we have a School of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. So all the programs curricula we have revamped, wherein 20 to 25% of the curricula is specifically on skills, whether it is ability enhancement skills, whether it is employability skills or value-added courses. So 20% have been set aside for that. Then we have your interdisciplinary courses. So around 20% of the courses are interdisciplinary, which are cutting across all the disciplines. Only 50% has been given to the core. And again, in core also, out of that 50%, 20% are industry projects, industry internships, all those things. So what I'm trying to say here is that if all these things can be properly integrated, seamlessly integrated into the curricula itself for the number of credits they have to clear, and then if the delivery happens in the right manner, learning will happen. And that's what I think the universities need to focus on.
That's a very perfect and very valuable thought. In fact, you shared about what the universities need to actually focus upon. And now coming to Raghav, like from your experience, what are the key emerging trends and priorities you're observing in shaping India's higher education landscape? We are eager to hear your perspective on how the trends are influencing the future of education in India.
Yeah, I always find it helpful before we talk about the future of education to talk about the future of work a little bit. Tarannum. And I think let me start with that, and I'll come to future of education. And very broadly, and I think most of us have experienced this ourselves in our, work life. COVID happened. Almost all of us realized that across industry, all industry leaders said digitalization is something that every company has done, right? You could be a tech company, you could be a consumer products company, you could be a retailer, you could be an engineering company, whatever. So we all saw digitalization happen. Second thing that happened was remote work became a thing, right? Earlier, all of us would work in office, then it became 100%. And today, it's pretty much well established that in certain industries, remote work will continue to be a big part of how work happens. So in technology, in IT, in media, and there's enough research out now which says 30-40% of work or workers will continue to be remote, while in other industries like real estate, etc., almost 90% of the work is on site, while only 10% is remote, right? So digitalization happened, and it's not just only for IT, but every sector got impacted because of that. Banking, mechanical engineering, etc., etc. And remote work happened. And higher education was starting to absorb all of these changes. But then 5-6 months ago, generative AI and chat GPT happened as well, right? And there have been enough newspaper headlines and media headlines about how ChatGPT will kill the future of higher education, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of fear of how this will really disrupt education, because as a student, right, you can pretty much use ChatGPT for any assignment that you might be given now, unless the university has a clear policy on how they are adopting all of this, right? And in all of this, when I think about the future of higher education, I see a lot of institutional leaders focusing on 4 areas. Surprisingly, these 4 areas have not changed, even though digitization happened, remote work happened, chat GPT happened. But the context of these 4 areas has changed a little bit. Even pre-pandemic, one area where many academic leaders focused on was to say, look, we are strengthening academic excellence. We want to continue to drive the excellence of our institution from an academic standpoint. What has changed is the industry-aligned curricula, which Professor Arora spoke about as well, has become more important than ever before. And as a part of that, many institutions are saying that, look, I no longer limit my teaching to my faculty, my institution. And this is what we did with Professor Arora in his previous role as well, that today you can get a Princeton and a Georgia Tech to teach your students via a platform like Coursera. And now the NEP says 40% of the credits of an on-campus program can come from a platform like Coursera, because the idea is enable universities to collaborate. You could be in India, but you could be, bringing content from top universities around the world as well. So I think one, delivering industry-aligned curricula, is very, very important. And second, not just thinking about the 4 walls of your institution, but saying, how can I collaborate globally is important. And the second thing is building faculty competency was always important, but building faculty competency on new domains, which they were not teaching earlier, right? An MBA faculty should also be teaching blockchain, right? I was in Pune the other day, and we were joking about launching an MBA with specialization in generative AI, right? I don't think any program has an MBA with specialization in chat GPT, but we do have faculty for something like that. So the domains in which you also need faculty has changed quite dramatically. And also faculty who are very good at teaching in a classroom are now building skills of being able to teach online as well, because many times campuses are saying, and this might apply to SRM as well, we have a campus in AP, we have a campus in Chennai. Can I leverage the same faculty member by getting them to author online content? And that context has changed as well. And faculty doing research was always important, and it continues to be important as well, right? But that's the broader bucket of strengthening academic excellence, which continues to be important. The context, like I said, has changed a little bit. The second bucket I see is driving student employability and placements. And here, what we have seen, and because Coursera is a very large platform, we see globally working professionals and students are consuming a lot of what is called industry micro-credentials. I'm doing an MBA in digital marketing. Can I learn social media marketing from Facebook, right? I'm doing a BTech computer science. Can I learn programming from Google, right? So industry micro credentials have become extremely important. And then the third bucket, of course, is growing rankings and brand perception continue to be important for institutions. If anything, students and parents are saying, look, education is becoming more and more expensive. We want to be able to get an ROI on this education. And can I get my child to study high quality education, then also go to an institution which has a high reputation. And of course, rankings have always been important. NIRF came out yesterday. Increasingly, QS and THE are always important. And then lastly, and sometimes academic leaders shy away from this, but accelerating enrollment growth and revenue growth is also very important, right? Education continues to be not for profit, but you do need to be a self-sustaining organization. And India is a country where number of students in higher education is growing, unlike the US or Europe where it is shrinking, right? So by doing all of these activities, by launching new programs, by possibly also launching online programs, can you grow your revenues by 20%, which is not an easy task to be able to do but your costs are rising by 10%. So how does one balance the business side of things as well? And so that's where accelerating revenue growth comes in. Yeah, so I think those are probably the 4 areas where I see the need for a lot of focus. They haven't changed, but the context inside each of them has changed quite a bit.
In fact, Raghav, yes, I was listening to you and you mentioned ChatGPT. And let's delve into the highlights of the Coursera Day at IIT Bombay, where you announced a ChatGPT power tool. Could you just tell us the details of these developments and how they are expected to reshape India's education landscape, and what can be the implication and opportunities for the learners and the educators?
Yeah, so we've announced a couple of things, right? We've said, how do we make the learning experience for the learner much more powerful? And, so the pandemic established online education a little bit, right? Many students said, look, I want to learn in a class, but I can also learn online. And now the NEP and the recent National Credit Framework says 40% of credits can come from an online platform. So we're seeing many institutions are saying, look, 10, 20, 30% of credits we will deliver from an online platform. And so we've been saying, how do we make that a more exciting experience, right? We all know all of us as humans learn differently, right? Somebody learns, visually, somebody learns by reading, somebody learns by doing, and all of that, right? So one of the things that we have done is we've launched an individual tutor, a coach for everybody who's learning on the Coursera platform. If I'm a learner and I can come and take a course, and there is a ChatGPT powered coach which is sitting there. And if I'm taking a course and I'm not understanding something, I can ask the coach questions and it will give me personalized answers. I can also say to the coach, look, I'm finding this concept hard to understand. Can you explain it to me like a 10-year-old child would understand? And the coach will simplify it for you and it will give you that. I can also sometimes wonder, why am I learning this subject? Is it going to help me in my career when I want to become a software developer in the gaming industry? And coach can actually tell me whether it will help me in that career aspiration or not, right? So the idea is what a faculty member will never be able to do, right? Which is to be personalizing knowledge for 70 students in a class. We are complementing some of that by saying, look, if you also enable coach on Coursera as a part of what your learners are doing, then we can make that happen. Now, the risk in doing all of this is sometimes when ChatGPT goes across the internet and looks for answers, it will give you incorrect answers as well. It actually hallucinates as well. And what we've done is we've said we are limiting ChatGPT to only the Coursera platform, which only has content from experts from universities and companies and so on, so that it will give you the right answers. A student may say, look, let me take the assessment and ask ChatGPT to answer it for me. We've limited that. We've said you can't ask the ChatGPT, the coach, questions about the assessments that you're supposed to take and so on. The other thing that we've done, and I'll keep it brief, now, faculty is always creating content, right? And it is a lot of work to create content, to put a course pack together, to put a curriculum together. And we've said, look, ChatGPT can actually enable that, can turbocharge it. If you've used ChatGPT and said, look, write an essay for me on, in 600 words about the future of higher education, right? If I write it myself, it might take me 5 hours. ChatGPT will write it in 2 minutes, right? So that's the idea. Can we turbocharge content creation of what faculty is doing, where they can bring their own content, also use content from the Coursera platform? We are calling it Course Builder, and then ChatGPT can automatically apply pedagogical best practices. It can apply, it can create assessments automatically. It can create a reading glossary accordingly. And I've shown it to many folks, and everybody is quite excited about it. The idea is turbocharge content creation for what faculty are able to do today in a manual kind of an environment. So Coach and Course Builder for learners and faculty members, that's what we've announced.
That's very interesting to know. In fact, coming to you, Professor Arora, now since we are talking about ChatGPT and technology, as the future of learning and work undergoes rapid transformation, there is a growing need to develop emerging skills and career paths in digital jobs. How are you addressing this demand within your university?
Okay, I think I will go with where Raghav left, right? So
Exactly.
he very fondly talked about ChatGPT and generative AI, and I think of course we cannot ignore these things. What we need to do, I think, we need to integrate these things also properly into our learning process, right? So right now the only limitations which I see here when we see emergence of ChatGPT and generative AI, these are the two things he spoke about, is that the thinking ability of the students and teacher, there could be a compromise on that, because he will get ready-made answers whenever he goes there, and he will get everything. So thinking ability might be a challenge here. The second, when it comes to generation of content, I think there would be issues with regard to copyright and plagiarism, where again we have to bring in those, turn it in, and all those things before we put the content which has been generated from there onto its proper form. He also talked about digital content curation, and using that collaboratively in our learning process. He also talked about faculty. He also talked about employability and other skills, right? So the answer to all these things is that I think, yes, we have to use these things into our learning process, and somehow if we can integrate it seamlessly into our delivery part, course delivery part, I think we can certainly create that kind of learning environment for the students, which is current generation of students. So for example, in our university, when you talk of rapid transformation in our university, when I was talking about the curricula, when it comes to the delivery side, so what we have done is that 3 or 4 credit of course have been bifurcated into several micro credits, let's say, right? So wherein the teacher is free, the faculty is free to integrate, say, 20% of the online course properly into that particular course, right? And 80% it could be other way. Another 20%, for example, some industry personnel can come and teach that course. Another 20%, I'm taking another example. He talked about that people from international universities also can come in and teach the courses remotely. Yes, we can include that also if we are engaging some of the good foreign faculties into our learning process. So if we can divide that course, the delivery part of that course, in these small components, I think this is going to bring a major change in our learning process. The less emphasis is given on in-class activities and more on out-class activities and more on experiential activities. I think if we do that, then certainly this transformation can happen when we talk of emerging skills and career paths in digital jobs. Now, having said so, this all is related to the flexibility which we give to the students. right? So if I am giving them giving the students an opportunity to create their own portfolio or basket of courses depending upon his or her career aspirations and depending upon the digital knowledge he can acquire from other sources, if all these things can be integrated in the curricula itself, certainly these transformations can happen, and that's what we are doing in our university. So come 23-24 academic year, the students will undergo a 10 to 15 days orientation program where they will define their path for what depending upon the career path, they will choose the courses which they have to do in during the course of their stay there on campus.
That was interesting to know what you are doing in your campus, sir. In fact, coming to you again, and since Raghav shared a lot what Coursera is actually doing, online platforms like Coursera are actually, offering a lot of industry-focused content to help students showcase their skills to potential employers. In your opinion, how significant is the role of such online platforms in preparing the students for the job market, or to make them more skilled?
In fact, it is very important. And if we have good content which is available to us on online, right, and it is there. If, again, when I said based upon their career path, there are basket of skill courses which the students have to opt for. Now, if these skill courses can come from those online platforms and which could be taught in a flipped learning environment, there both things happen. He will learn from the online course, and then again when he is sitting in the class, right, interacting with the people, wherein the content which he has already studied can also be discussed, and then so a hybrid way of or blended way of doing things will certainly help. And I see a huge, I think, role of these online platforms in our learning processes from now onwards.
In fact, coming to you now, Raghav, since Mr. Professor Arora already said about the role of online platforms, many universities have been partnering with Coursera and they've experienced improved outcomes such as enhanced career readiness and job placements. Can you share some examples of universities you have partnered with in driving career outcomes?
Yeah, sure. So for many years, in fact, since 2016, Axis Bank, which is one of the largest banks in the country, has been training its employees on the Coursera platform. The platform is called Coursera for Business, and they've been training their employees. Last year in October, the CHRO of Axis Bank said, look, we are increasingly becoming a technology company that works in the financial services space. We're not thinking of ourselves just as a bank and a financial services company. And we are increasingly hiring software engineers. We are hiring data analysts and people like that. And I'm taking an approach of what I would call skills first learning, hiring, right? That along with the degree of the student, I'd love to see what is the skill that the student possesses in context of the role that I'm hiring for. So we said, look, there are a few lakh students in campuses who learn on Coursera. They're learning from industry as well. So they're learning on campus. They're also learning from industry, this trend that we were just talking about of industry micro-credential. And because they're learning online, we're able to measure their skill development as well. And we can actually create a skill profile of students. So why don't we do a pilot to, help you hire these people? We showed them students from a university called Graphic Era University in Dehradun, and Axis Bank today doesn't go to Graphic Era University to hire software engineers. They looked at 50 odd profiles, they shortlisted 20 of them. And finally, a student called Anagha Bhardwaj and two of her friends received software development engineer job offers from Axis Bank. Now, Anagha is doing a BTech computer science, but what made her profile unique and what enabled Axis Bank to hire her with the objective of skills first hiring is she had done a data science with Python micro-credential from IBM as well. And that, coupled with the fact that we were able to create a skills profile for Anagha, made her somebody that Axis Bank wanted to hire. And they liked her so much that they offered her and two other students a 20% premium on the compensation that they usually offer to students going to campus, right? And this was a pilot of something that we're calling hiring solutions, where we are saying a lot of companies are looking for people like Anagha who are coming out of campuses. And I'm sure this applies to Professor Arora's campus as well. That look, if you're a great student studying at a good university, also building the right kind of skills for exciting jobs of the future. And if we can help companies see these skill profiles, companies are very, very excited to take a look at them and then finally meet these students. Now she's going to go from Dehradun to Bombay, and I met her in Dehradun a few weeks ago, and she was excited. Her parents know that you can learn on Coursera. You can also now get a job on Coursera as well. So yeah, that was quite exciting.
That's very interesting. In fact, the example you gave for Anagha was like quite inspiring. In fact, coming to you, Professor Arora, in fact, now I would like to ask you that incorporating online learning for credit has become essential aspect of bridging the curricular gaps and enhancing industry-focused education. What specific measures are you taking to leverage online learning in your for credit within your university?
Okay, I mean, Raghav talked about 40%. In fact, I was in the national committee when we arrived at 20% before this COVID happened. And that's how it was implemented at the national level. But then because of this COVID, it is increased to 40%. Yes, I think all the universities have the option of choosing up to 40% of the courses which could come from online platforms. So what we have done in our university is that, okay, depending upon the nature of the course, you design a course in such a manner that there could be an online component of that particular course from 0% to 100%. Right. So instead of saying that, okay, 40% of the courses could be online, why can't we have that, okay, 40% of the course taught by online and 60% is face-to-face. So what we are doing is that we have given this freedom to the faculty who will customize it in such a manner that given the nature of the course, he or she is able to integrate the online component seamlessly from 0% to 100% in a particular course. And that's what we are doing. Now, in online platforms, again, here the faculty is very, they're very used to using NPTEL courses and all, because these have been going on since ages. But again, I think the quality of courses which Coursera has, I think they have a lot of potential to integrate many of these courses into their curricula. And I'm sure faculty would be motivated enough to take these courses from Coursera or any other equivalent platforms.
And, if I can add one thing, Tarannum, when we were talking before the webinar started, right? I met Professor Arora, I think back in 2019, well before the pandemic, right? And under his leadership, we started this whole idea that, look, what he just explained, that, look, along with teaching in a classroom, how do you leverage the power of bringing the best of the world to your students using online? I think we started, and his earlier university was amongst the first to do this under his leadership. So he's a bit of a veteran of having done this for a while.
So that's very interesting. In fact, Raghav, like coming to you now, generative AI is revolutionizing various sectors, as we know, including higher education. In what ways do you envision the integration of generative AI transforming the learning experience for students in the higher education setting?
In addition to generative AI, Raghav, I may also request you to focus on these immersive technologies also, how to integrate these also in the learning process.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we just announced something on that. So let me kind of share that as well. I think, Tarannum, between the two of us, right, we've called out some of the challenges and some of the opportunities of generative AI, right? If a student is doing a long form essay just using generative AI, not using their gray cells, it is, it is a dilution of the learning opportunity like we spoke about, right? So how do universities think about that? While on the other side, and there is enough research for decades now, which says that if a student were to have a personalized tutor, it is probably the best form of instruction that one can get, even more powerful than an in-person classroom kind of an instruction, right? So the challenges are, what are the policies How do you avoid, cheating and so on that this allows? The opportunities are coach and course builder, like I spoke about, right? Creating a personalized learning experience, enabling faculty. And, if any of us have tried using ChatGPT to write an essay, it goes like that, right? So, but then you can edit it yourself and make it what you want it to be. Imagine content creation, course syllabus creation happening at that pace. So it is very, very powerful. I think the other bit outside of this that we recently announced, right? We've said, look, you can actually integrate immersive technologies like virtual reality and extended reality into the learning experience as well. In courses like public speaking, right? So you can actually, and I'd love to show you at some stage, but we've integrated virtual reality into a public speaking course from the University of Washington, I believe. Now, public speaking is a little bit like swimming. Like, you can't learn it without doing it, right? You can't learn the theory of public speaking only. You have to practice. So the virtual reality says, okay, pick a setting, right? Do you want to practice public speaking in a boardroom, or do you want to practice public speaking in an auditorium with 500 people? And obviously, these are very different settings, and how you will speak is very different. And then as you deliver your speech, the coach gives you feedback about how the audience is feeling and what you will do when the audience is not engaged. If everybody's on their phone and they're not listening to you, what do you do about that? And you can kind of experience that. We've also said in a course, which is Introduction to Human Physiology, you can use virtual reality to go inside a vein and see how blood flows, and all of those healthcare applications that one can imagine. So that's coming as well. And I think it's going to complement the richness of the learning experience, which I think, along with coach and course builder, virtual reality and extended reality will be able to do as well.
Yeah. In fact, Professor Arora, since we are talking about the immersive technologies and generative AI, I would like to ask you, in fact, how do you see these technologies influencing the educational landscape?
I mean, these are going to be very, very revolutionary technologies, and we cannot ignore these things, right? And now that the challenge, which I think Raghav also put earlier, faculty. Now, if I look at the faculty, they are still in their old mindset, right? We as leaders have to work on changing the mindset of the faculty to make sure that the faculty members are using these new learning ways and integrating those, augmenting their teaching properly through these, whether it is online material, whether it is online course, whether it is generative AI or immersive technologies. They don't have any scope not to use these, right? Because my students are smarter than them. Okay, so they would be knowing much more about these technologies than the faculty member. So in fact, the whole summer vacation here, we will be working on the faculty member when we say, okay, there is a revamped curricula which is coming for you. So that is the only challenge which I foresee here. Otherwise, I mean, we cannot get away from these things.
But do you think, molding the faculty in this new order would be a little difficult task for a university?
It will be a difficult task, but it has to be done. So leadership has to work in such a manner that people who really want to get into this, only then only those people will survive in this environment. Otherwise, they can go elsewhere. There are many places. They have to.
Perfectly fine.
They have to,
exactly.
Because they have to work at the level of current generation.
Exactly.
Right? If they are not working, then the students will not get back to them. Their classes will be empty.
Exactly. So it's basically like that the faculty needs to keep up with the changing times. Like if ChatGPT and immersive technologies are the thing of the day, the faculty has to keep up to it.
Yes.
Raghav, in fact, coming towards the end of this entire discussion, and my last question would be to you. Looking ahead, what is your perspective on how universities in India should actually approach in collaborating with Coursera?
I mean, Professor Arora already did that, right? He just collaborated with Coursera. So I think this is what we can contribute to a lot more universities. I think like I said earlier, the strategic goals that academic leaders are looking to drive have not changed, right? academic excellence, student employability and placements, brand ranking, perception, driving enrollments and revenue growth, those have not changed. The context has changed, right? And where we can complement what academic leaders are doing. And now regulation facilitates that, right? Regulation is very clear that you can use Coursera for credit. We also have a very good understanding of industry skills. And that's where we can come in and say, look, let's increasingly think about education. It doesn't matter whether it is offline or online, it is education. It's not either or. And let's no longer limit the learning to within the university, but let's open up the walls of the university to say collaboration with other universities and with industry as an educator is now very, very feasible. And now with generative AI coming into online, I think it will take it to the next level.
Perfect. In fact,
Tarannum, I have a request from Raghav that if you can send some of your team for about 2 days and pick a handful of faculty members, right? And you can talk about these things and give them some hands-on experience, right? We will be very glad.
That's my day job, Professor Arora. So happy to do that any day. Happy to do that.
Because if the words come from others, faculty will be more motivated, right?
Exactly. In fact, if the word comes from the industry itself, the faculty would feel that they are in sync with the entire thing.
Exactly.
Like coming from inside and coming from outside would have a different kind of a pressure altogether.
Right. Raghav, by the way, if you are free on Saturday, can you say, or if you or anybody else can come and have some interaction with us?
Let me come back to you very quickly on that. Vinod, my colleague, is here as well. So he and I will speak. He's based in Coimbatore, and we'll speak and we can come back quite quickly.
Sure. I'll send you the details.
Yeah.
That would be really good. In fact, that was a very engaging and a very, very inspiring kind of a discussion on the latest technologies, the immersive technologies, ChatGPT. We heard from Professor Arora what the universities should be doing and what he in his university has been doing. We heard from Raghav Gupta what Coursera is doing and what actually is the demand of the market right now in terms of higher education. It was a wonderful discussion with both of you. Thank you, Professor Arora, for joining us. Thank you, Raghav, for joining us for this discussion. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tarannum. Thank you, Raghavji. Namaskar.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.